And welcome back everyone. Last time we brought the modes into the order of the limb dapple. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the sound of these modes. Maybe you had the chance to play around in the mode of Lydian, or you grabbed your instrument and you played a bit in Ionian, or you absorbed the sound of Mixolydian, of C Dorian. If you haven't done so, I really recommend you to do that in order to appreciate the sound of the modes. Remember that modes are moods. Now if you play around with those modes, you will probably agree that the sound of Lydian is very much in contrast to the sound of, let's say, Locrian. Many musicians would agree that if you play through these modes, as you go from L to I to M to D to A to PL, the mood darkens or it gets sadder. And the other way around. If you go from Locrian up to Lydian, the sound gets brighter, more hopeful. You name it. Whatever you feel when you play the moods, it's the right thing. Now today I'm going to show you a quite peculiar thing that shows once more that music theory is a reflection of nature. Now let's go with a thesis that Lydian is the brightest sounding scale and Locrian is the darkest sounding scale. Now let me show you something very interesting. These modes can be split into two tetrachords. Most of these tetrachords span a perfect fourth, like from C to F and from G to C. Lydian, for example, spans an augmented fourth and a perfect fourth. So does Locrian here. This is an augmented fourth as well. But let's say for now we split all the modes into two forms of tetrachords. In Lydian we find a whole tone, whole tone, whole tone as the first tetrachord, and the second tetrachord would be a whole tone, and a semitone. In Ionian we see a whole tone, and a semitone as the first tetrachord, and the second tetrachord is the same. Whole tone, semitone. In Mixolydian the first tetrachord would be a whole tone, a semitone, and the second tetrachord would be a whole tone, a semitone, and a whole tone. Now let me add a bar to Lydian. We said the first tetrachord is a whole tone, and the second tetrachord is a whole tone, another whole tone, and a semitone. These are the two tetrachords of Lydian: whole tone, semitone. What happens if I use these tetrachords and just invert them? Now let's try this. The reversed tetrachord would start with a semitone. Then I would get a whole tone. A whole tone from D flat is E flat. Then I would get another whole tone. A whole tone up from E flat is F. So here we see our first reversed tetrachord of Lydian. Semitone, whole tone, and another whole tone. You see that these tetrachords are separated by a minor second. A minor second up from F would be G flat. My second reversed tetrachord would only consist of whole tone steps. So a whole tone step up from G flat would be A flat, and another whole tone step up from A flat would be B flat, and another whole tone up from B flat would be a C. So here we have our second tetrachord. Now if we analyze this mode, we see that the semitone steps are between tone 1 and 2 and tone 4 and 5. We created C Locrian. I think this is quite remarkable. We said before Lydian is the brightest scale, Locrian would be a very, very dark scale, maybe the darkest of these modes. And very interesting is that the construction of Lydian is the reversed Locrian. Now here's a different chart to show you how it works. C Lydian and C Locrian are in fact mirrored scales. What happens if we mirror C Ionian in the same way? We get C Phrygian. If we mirror Mixolydian, we get Aeolian. Just if we mirror Dorian, we get Dorian. So you see, the limb dapple is quite an interesting phenomenon. The mirrored Lydian is Locrian. The mirrored Ionian is Phrygian, and the mirrored Phrygian is Ionian. The mirrored Mixolydian is Aeolian, or the mirrored Aeolian is Mixolydian. Only Dorian is exactly symmetrical. If you invert or reverse Dorian, you will get Dorian. And that's it for today.